And we're back in the room. Kieran, how are you, mate?
I'm okay, mate. How you doing? You good?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I am so, as I mentioned to you before the recording started, so
Mm.
over the moon to get you on the show because not only have you got a story to tell, but
Yeah.
also really some things to enlighten everyone about.
Mm.
Because when I heard
Yeah,
about your
cool.
story and the things that you've gone through, it has shaken me to the core, really. And I think it will do a lot of people who are going to listen to this. But this is going to cover a lot of areas. So it's going to cover adoption, social services. Um, Essentially, there's whistleblowing of that going out at the moment, supposedly.
Mm.
But I think just before we continue with that, just so everyone can get a really good run through and overview of what it is, where you've come from, and what we're doing today, you've actually got something pre-written, sorry, that you
I
want to
have,
just
yeah.
go through, just to give an overview. So obviously, the floor's yours with that.
Okay. How you doing? My name is Kieran Thomas. I speak for the Sabre Children Army. I'm from South London. I grew up where crime was not seen as wrong. It was just how you got by because of the choices I made. I spent over 13 and a half years in prison. Then I wanted to change. I wanted to leave that life behind. I wanted to build something better. My fiance fell pregnant, and for the first time, I had something real to hope for. But because of my past and her history of mental health struggles, social services stepped in before our baby was even born. What followed was a nightmare I would not wish on anyone. The first report twisted everything we said and did like a horror movie script. We were over the moon about our daughter, but we could not enjoy one single day of the pregnancy because of the fear they filled us with. Our little girl was born 6 days before the first COVID lockdown. She was taken into care. My fiance was sent to live in the placement with her and treated like a prisoner. They used lockdown rules to cut her off from the family, to control every part of her life, to break her. Even though every meeting said she was doing everything right, they had already decided to take our child. Lies filled their reports. Then we got false positive hair tests saying we were using drugs when we were not. It was all stacked against us. 1 second. Hold on. Before this happened, I believed what most people do, that social workers are there to help. But seeing what they did to us and seeing hundreds of other families with exact the same story, I knew I had to stand up. That is why we are here today, because what happened to us is not an accident. It is a system. Right, just slowly. Right. I think I'm reading the wrong thing here, you know?
It's okay. It's not a problem. I think we've kind of got like an idea here, really, of the fact that
Yeah. I've,
you, because of your background and because
mm,
of obviously things that have, by looks of it, have been happening, it's
yeah,
put you in a position.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, so there's no problem. I can do it without that anyway. So basically, I grew up in the life where crime was completely normalised, and by that, everyone I knew was at it. When I say everyone, family members. If you wasn't doing something wrong, you wasn't actually like a normal person within my family, where that's anything but normal. But obviously, that was promoted kind of lifestyle.
What
Um,
sort of
um,
things are we talking about?
I was involved with armed robberies, commercial burglaries of department stores, and yeah, unfortunately, at a very young age, I got involved with that kind of lifestyle. And like where most people went off to college, university, and stuff like that, or go off and learn the trade through an apprenticeship, at the time it was £3.20 an hour.
Wow.
Uh, there was groups of lads like in my area that was out doing what they'd be doing. They'd be breaking into Marks and Spencer stores all around the country and pulling up in brand new cars when they was 15, 16, 17 years of age.
Jesus.
On
So
the
what were they? Were they
estate.
going for the cash or were they going for
Cash,
product?
a lot of cash and vouchers. Marks and Spencer's used to leave the vouchers in the tills once upon a time.
Right.
Uh, they could be sold for half price. The vouchers could. That's
Mm.
that's the unfortunate thing. It's like that become normalised. Like even my mum, when I'd be going out the door, when she knows I was going out to rob somewhere, she'd say, "Do you know what, Keir? I think you're going to have a good day today." As I'm walking out the door, and it's like when I look back at it now as a grown up, because now I am a grown up, looking back at what was going on with my childhood, I'll be thinking, "Wow." It's like, how can any parent be green lighting their child to be robbing a building society? You know,
Mm.
18, 19 years of age. Go on, son. I think you're going to have a good day today. That's what I grew up with. It was completely normalised. I had two uncles that was out doing armed robberies quite regular, and they used to pull up outside the house in Renault 5 GT turbos, uh, BMW 7 Series. I used to see money, and
Mm.
I was seeing people not working for the money. So obviously, like I say, it become normalised for me. Unfortunately, it become normalised for me, and I've ended up spending 13 years and 6 months behind the door, which is the equivalent of doing 27 years. I'm 46 years of age. I
Mm.
haven't been in custody since 2017.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is a long period of time what I've been out now. Uh, I come out of custody after the last time I was in, and I met my partner, who I'm still with now, my fiance. Uh, we was together for 5 years. For 5 years, we tried for a baby. She never fell pregnant for five
Right.
years. Then one day, I come home from work and she says, "I'm pregnant." And I'm like, wow, okay. Anyway, it wasn't 100% confirmed. That was just through her doing the test that you do at home, a self test. She hadn't been to the hospital. She hadn't been to the doctor. So at that point, it wasn't confirmed that she was 100% pregnant.
But you
And it
must have been
wasn't.
excited
It
though,
was.
yeah.
I was excited, but I was also thinking, hold on a minute, until it's confirmed, can I get excited about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, the day it was confirmed, I was out with my little cousin. We was in Eastbourne, and literally 5 minutes later, after me being told, "Yeah, you're definitely going to be a dad," yeah, I was over the moon. My adrenaline was pumping and everything. So me and my
Mhm.
cousin, we had a race. We raced down to Eastbourne along the seafront on our push bikes. We was having a good little race. I ended up having a bad accident where I broke both my arms, ended up with a bleed on my brain, and having seizures on the floor, and not knowing who my cousin was, and thinking my fiance's walked off down the road.
I'm
She
just
wasn't
going to
even.
stop you, Kieran, just because the signal's going really bad. So you're breaking up now. So I don't know if your Wi-Fi is playing up.
I don't know.
Because you was talking, but it was like so your Wi-Fi's playing up. Yes, I can see you all right. It's just the sound's breaking up, like the Wi-Fi's playing up.
Okay. That's the heat. I'm in a block of flats.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Just try speaking now.
Yeah, every time you're talking, I'm getting a bit of feedback.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I think it is the Wi-Fi or whatever it is, because it started off all right, then it just started deteriorating.
That better?
Just try talking now to me.
You're echoing back on me.
That's weird. Very weird. I don't know what's going on there.
I don't understand what's going on either.
Because it
Don't
was
understand what's
fine.
going on.
You was talking fine, and then it just started going. So I don't know if it's. I mean, my Wi-Fi's on full at the minute, so I don't know if it's a connection there.
Yeah, I've literally got 4 bars on the Wi-Fi. It's saying I got 4
Yeah.
out of the 5, so it shouldn't be doing that.
No. Strange. It doesn't matter. I mean, even like the thing is, I can cut bits out, so it's not a problem.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no,
so.
I get that. I get that. I get that.
All right. It's sounding all right now. I think it's starting to sort itself out.
Well, I know it's proper getting interfering. Hello?
Hello, mate.
Yeah, that's better.
That's better.
So it might have been you.
All right. It's always me. You can hear
At the
me.
moment,
You can hear me all right.
I'm still getting feedback. All I'm getting is,
why.
when you get the radio breaking sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're sounding
Like an
all
echo.
right to me.
Okay. Okay, that's cool.
That's strange.
So,
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll go as is. All right.
yeah.
So you were obviously talking about the fact that obviously you found out, obviously. Well, no, you suspected.
Yeah.
She was
Basically, I
pregnant.
was in Eastbourne.
Yeah.
I was in Eastbourne. I had a race with my little cousin. Straight after finding out I'm going to be a dad. Excited, adrenaline must have been pumping. I must have been doing 25, 30 mile an hour on my bike. I'd only just had the bike fixed. I was actually getting it fixed when my fiance basically called me up and told me, you know what, it's 100% confirmed you're going to be a dad. I was over the moon, because now, for the first time in my life, I've got something to live for.
Mm-hmm.
I never had much of a good life before. And for a number of years, because I've been living with PTSD, because I've had post-traumatic stress disorder from quite young. But we never had a label for it until 2018 was when it was labelled.
Yeah.
And that was after having a complete mental breakdown and multiple panic attacks and stuff like that in certain situations. So
What does that
basically,
look like, by the way, when you're going through it?
I've become very fearful. This one way of describing it is like, I was in a kitchen one day in the prison system, and they the chef pulls a knife out, and when they're talking, they're doing what they do with the knife like that as they're giving their thing. I flung a load of oven trolleys in front of me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I've been living with PTSD. I don't know why I've gone on to that about the PTSD now.
Well, no, it's just because obviously, you know, you've had a difficult childhood.
Proper.
You've talked about the fact that you've now got something that is really worth living for. You've just found out that she's pregnant.
So basically, leading up to when I found out I was going to be a dad, I didn't want to live for the last. Even though I've been seeing my partner for 5 years, but at the very start of it, my cousin was murdered. Joshua Hanson. That's my little cousin. He's all over the news. It was all over the news at the time. Like, for the first three and a half years of mine and my partner's relationship, that man that killed my cousin was on the run, and all we had on social media was the murderers, and I'm going to name him Shane O'Brien, who killed my cousin. He basically cut my cousin from his ear down across his neck, and my cousin basically bled out. Like,
Do you know what this was relating to? Why
to be honest with you, that was a stranger killing. There was nothing to it. It was just a bully. My cousin was tiny compared to this guy. The guy was 6'3", 6'4", built like a brick shit house. My cousin was a little fella. You know,
Mm.
if you was to look him up online, Joshua Hanson, you will see uh, what happened to him because it's on there. The actual full thing, the whole graphic thing of what actually happened to my cousin was on there. Uh, so basically, leading up to finding out I was going to be a dad for about 5 years, I think I tried to kill myself about 10 times leading up. I was living with PTSD and I didn't know what was going on with me. You know, I was waking up after having going to sleep, felt like you're only going to sleep for 15 minutes, then you're awake, jumping out your skin like you're in a war zone, fighting with everyone and all that. And my partner
Mm.
witnessed it so many times, and she knew something was going on with me. But like she caught me one time creeping out the door with a skipping rope. Yeah, I box, but she caught me going out the door at 2 o'clock in the morning, skipping rope. Well, I'm not going outside to go skipping. I'd had enough of what was going on inside of the head. So when I found out I was going to be a dad, it all changed for me.
Yeah.
Finally had a reason, a purpose, you know?
Mm.
The
I
most
would
important
imagine,
thing,
Kieran, that living in an environment like that that led up to that point, your relationships with your family are basically
they're
criminal,
non-existent. Oh,
and
they're
they're
non-existent.
criminal and non-existent.
They're non-existent now,
Mm.
you
And so
know?
what was it? If you don't mind me asking, what was it that got you the time in prison?
All right. I've been in prison on a few occasions. I went away to start off with for commercial burglary, where I'd broken into uh, Putney Marks and Spencers was one of the locations, and where we'd force entry, we'd open a few tills. I'm 16, 17 at the time. I got sentenced for that when I was 18. Uh,
Mm.
so I spent a bit of time like that, and obviously that then introduced me. Plus, my uncles were armed robbers as well. Then that introduced me when I went into prison. I met other people that are in the criminal fraternity, and they was basically going down the wrong path. They was all armed robbers. So I got mixed up with them. Then I come out of prison. I started doing that as well as the commercial burglaries. Uh, I've got to be careful what I say because obviously I can't
Mm.
ever incriminate myself.
Of
So I'll
course,
never
yeah.
say where anything happened or anything like that, other than the stuff that I've been convicted of. But
Allegedly, yeah.
yeah, but other than stuff that I've actually been convicted of, I will never confirm that I've done
Yeah,
anything. Uh,
absolutely. What was prison like for yourself, especially that first time that you went?
First time I remember I was there, I was only there 2 weeks, and I got moved into a cell with a skinhead racist, and I was in Feltham Young Offenders Institute. And I
Wow,
swear the prison staff done that on purpose. They
really?
moved, they moved me, yeah, they moved me into this cell. It was basically an upstairs cell. And they put me in with this guy. He's a skinhead, racist, like a neo-Nazi. The wing was 95% coloured people, black people, African, Jamaican,
Right.
English black people, all on the wing. Well, I hadn't come out of my cell at this point because there'd been no what they do in prisons, a thing called association, where you go out, you might play a game of pool, table tennis, have a shower, you make a phone call. That's what you would do on them associations. I hadn't been out, but because I was in the cell with this skinhead, and other people had seen another white boy going into the cell, because obviously he couldn't be banged up with black boys. I didn't know this. I got in the cell. Next thing they're targeting him, they're trying to target me, and I was 18 years of age. Next thing I've got a load of people telling me if I don't give them my canteen, I'm gonna get it. And I told them all to fuck off. Basically,
Mhm.
I'm not interested in their bullshit. You know. So anyway, first time in prison, 2 weeks. I got scared, uh, but I went out of my cell and I had a fight with one of the guys. I'm expecting 20 people to rush me because I'm banged up with a racist. So I'm thinking everyone's coming for me.
Mhm.
And I protected myself. I found a brick that was loose. I put that in a sock. I had that down in my waist just in case I needed it. I never needed it. But prison in itself, I was 18 years of age. I'm thrown in the frying pan, basically. That's what our class felt and young offenders at, as it's like a frying pan in there. The bells go off 24/7 in there, you know. People are getting stabbed in there, they're getting sliced in there. The screws at the time, it was all well known about. The screws were running books on how long it's going to take before someone's get beaten up. It come out in an
Seriously.
investigation. Yeah, it come out in an investigation because I went back in there at 20 years of age for robbing the security van. And when I went back in there at 20 years of age for robbing the security van, uh, I'd only been in there a couple of days, and basically, while I was in there for them couple of days, uh, I was on a wing called Lap Wing, right? Lap Wing was just before the visits hall. Well, one day we weren't allowed out of our cell, and we thought, hold a minute, what's gone on? What we didn't know is they'd put same situation like all them years, 2 years before when I've been in there, when they put me in with the racist. They've done this. They put an Indian guy in with a racist that had RIP tattooed on his head. And the Indian guy was saying to his pad mate, I'm going home. I'm going home. Yes, I'm going home. Excited he's going home. Well, the geezer with RIP tattooed on his forehead, skinhead, racist, he killed his pad mate. Yeah. This is when it come out in the documentary about the prison officers all running books on how long somebody would last before they got weighed in. They was having bets on. This is what was going on in Feltham Young Offenders. You know, it was a fucking dangerous place. You know what I mean? And they put me originally at 18 years of age in with a skinhead racist. See,
Knowing too
see,
well
see
that
what,
you're
see
on a
where I'm
wing
coming
with
from. This is
predominantly
how.
black people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mad.
it's like I've grown up around black people all my life, right? And but to put me with somebody that is a target, they was only setting me up to get me done. You know, that's what they
Mm.
do in that place. They just want to see. They see anything if you're about anything or anything like that. That's what they was trying to do, and I believe they're probably still like that now. You know, but I can't say 100% without going in there and investigating myself, or seeing a young person. But when I was there, it was 1998, and then I was there again in 2000. You
So
know,
this time round, you'd robbed a
I'd robbed a security
van.
van, nicked £11,500 of a custodian, delivering it into the post office. I was driving down the road one day in my car, and I just see this guy going backwards and forwards to the back of the van, and I thought he's only little. I parked my car up.
Mm.
And I got out my car and I just went over to him and I said, wait, give me the box. And I took the box off him. There was
Mm.
£11,500 in it, and the fire brigade chased me down the road. They literally turned up while I was doing it, and I jumped into my car at the time that I was driving, which was the Astra GE 16 valve, which was like at the time they was like a high performance hot hatch.
Mm.
You know, I drove off and went to open up the cash box. The die went off everywhere. I panicked. There was a helicopter outside flying around, and I just left.
That's game over then, isn't it?
Yeah, it was game over, mate. You know what I mean? So obviously, I
Mm.
left the box behind where I left it behind. I've left my car on the street, just dumped my car on the street because I thought, you know what, can't touch that now because I've been chased back to it by the fire brigade. That's like 4.5 grand that I've spent on the car, and I just
Mm.
walked away from it. But the following day, well, that night I went out with my. At the time, I was with a girl, and we went out for something to eat and drink because it was, I think it was a Valentine's night or something like that. It was some sort of night like that. And when we basically gone out for something to eat, she said, "Where's your car?" And I went, "What do you mean? My car's at
Mm.
home." So I stayed at her house that night because obviously I didn't bring my car out that night. Stayed at her house. Then my mum picks me up, takes me to my mum's house, and she said, "Hold a minute, where's your car?" I went, "Oh, it's not here anymore." I said, "Don't ask no questions." Next thing, my house was full of police. You know, I was
Jesus.
19. I was 19, 20 years of age. You know, that's what I was, 20 years of age.
What
And
did your what did your mum say? Because, like you said, crime was the norm. So
it was the norm.
what did she
To
say?
be honest with you, mate, I remember being about 11 years of age, and the only time I recall this is because when I moved on all these years later with my fiance, she's got two kids from a previous relationship.
Mhm.
And in the early days of our relationship, I remember, because I've just come out of prison, I've lived that mad life. I'm trying to live a straight life. But then I'm looking around and I'm thinking to myself, hold on a minute, these two, they're coming here. I would never have a loaded gun in the house where these children are, right?
No.
However, I was about 10 years of age. You know, remember the big cabin beds that used to have a double set of drawers underneath the bed?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I woke up one morning to my uncle going into that area, right? And I thought, what's he doing? So obviously the next opportunity came once he wasn't there. I went and had a look as a youngster would do. I found a shotgun in there and two handguns,
Jesus Christ.
right? So
Yeah.
that was normal. That was normal for me, right? So you imagine I'm finding out when I'm 10, 11 years of age. When I say the shotgun was in three pieces. Yeah. The handgun was there it was a revolver, and there was one with the magazine that goes in the bottom, which you basically cock it at the top.
Yeah.
9mm bullets in a carrier bag, and then the shotgun cartridge, a mixture of red and blue ones in another carrier bag.
And then
And that was
fast
under
forward, and
that
you're
was under my
19
bed.
now.
And then years later, I'm sitting there with my partner's children, and I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, this is when it really started to realise what kind of life I must have been having as a youngster. Or for me, I sat there and thought, I said to my missus, I pulled her aside, I said, listen, I said, babe, I said, I've just had some thought, and I said, I can't believe this. And she went, what? I said, my mum used to allow my uncles to hide guns underneath my bed when I was a child. And I said,
It's mad.
I wouldn't even bring a gun into a house where there's where
No.
there's a child, you know?
It just goes to show the lack of either care or understanding
Do you know what I mean?
whatever,
It is, and that made me really push away from my family as well. Because when I started thinking about things like that, and all the times my mum used to say to me, "Oh, you're gonna have a good time today. I feel, I've got that feeling you're gonna do well today." I'm 19 years of age, going out the door to fucking rob a building society, and my mum's telling me that.
And how did
You
she
know,
react to like the prison time that you was given?
to be honest with you, mate, like there was a multitude of different sentences, but it adds up to 27 years.
Mm,
Plus remand times as well, where I've
mm.
beaten cases and stuff like that. Yeah, my mum at first, when I was 18, there was no problem with it. She was coming up, she'd visit me in the prison, then she'd go back. She was trying to get me out of the prison, right? Then when I was 20, I got done for the post office van. I got
Mhm.
3.5 years, and while I was away doing the 3.5 years, my younger brother ended up being sectioned at age of 17 years of age with schizophrenia.
Wow.
Uh, that's probably got a lot to do with what happened to my younger brother. We had another brother who died at the age of 6, and I was 13. So my teenage years was plagued with pure trauma, right? And obviously I think that's what molded me to go down the road that I went. And I can't blame it on that, but
Well,
I can
we are,
actually we are
molded
who
into
we
what
are.
we are.
We've been through what we've been through, So obviously I understand that. But obviously when I look back at it, being put into foster care and children's home straight after my brother dying made me rebel, and I used to sleep in parks and stuff like that. Foster parents would try and ground me. I'd leave the place. They couldn't tell me what to do. They weren't my mum and dad. Do you know what I mean? I was sleeping in the park. I used to always go to the local parks where my mum lived, so I'd have to travel 3 or 4 miles to get there. And I'd go
Well,
and sleep in that park
if you
because I
don't
felt
mind me
safer.
asking,
Go
if
on,
you don't
mate.
mind me asking, Kieran,
Go on.
what happened for you to go into the foster care system in the first place?
Right, my brother died in October 1993. Uh, I- I'd started a new school in November 93, just after my brother died, just after his funeral. I've gone there, and one of the teachers asked me, this is all evidence in the school report and all that, and basically they'd asked me to ask my mum for some money for a school project. At the time, my mum's living off of benefits. She's paying for a funeral for my little brother who's only just died. And now the school's saying to me, they're saying, you need to get some money for your school project. And I turned around and said, look, well, I can't get no money for no school project. I can't ask my mum, right? I said, because my mum's paying for a funeral of my little brother who's 6 years of age that just died. And yeah, that's when I come out with, that was the first time I'd come out with about the dreams that I was having. I kept dreaming about my little brother being dead in the bed. And yeah, basically, I was having a lot of dreams and I couldn't explain what was going on. At this time, there was no PTSD. Nobody knew what PTSD was, and I kept having visions. Bear in mind, I'm only 14 at this point, yeah, of my little brother with his one eye open, one half open, and there's a green fluid coming out of his nose. But obviously, where the body lets go of the fluids and stuff. So I was dreaming about that kind of stuff. One boy, he'd witnessed me telling the teacher exactly what happened. You know what I mean? That he witnessed that. And the thing is, kids can be fucking cruel. That's one thing I can say. Kids can be cruel. He thought it was okay to come up to me in the class, not in the class, outside the class, basically out in the playground area, just by the class sort of thing. Come up to me. He went, Kia, is it true your brother haunting you? And he started laughing like it was something special. So I turned around, I beat the shit out of him I literally went to town on him. The teacher come to try and break it up. I went for the teacher as well. I'm 14 years of age.
Well,
My
you got all
brother
that
just,
anger in you. You've got all that upset and grief and everything else
yeah,
that you've gone through.
yeah. And yeah, basically I was rebelling and I've done that. That same very day, my mum sent social services to the school. They said, we've got a meeting for you today. And I'm like, what? I'm trying to run out there. I'm thinking, you ain't got no meeting for me. Yeah, I'm disappearing. I'm going home. You ain't telling me I've got to go anywhere else. They took me down to the Department of Social Services down in Carshalton, because that's my home area. So they took me down there. They've sat me in the room. My mum's telling me telling them if I come home with her, she's going to kill me. So they placed me into temporary foster care. And that temporary foster care lasted 9 months. And it was only after me keep running away and sleeping in a park that she actually agreed to have me back home. All I wanted
What
was
was
my
she
back.
so angry about? What, because you was kicking off at school?
Well, I was kicking off at school. I'd be kicking off at home. I'd be arguing. Nobody wasn't interested how I felt. Everyone always mentioned about how my little brother felt. Everyone was all talking about my mum. I was completely forgotten about because I was the older brother. I was expected to just get on with it,
Mm.
you know?
And you couldn't.
Nah, couldn't, mate. I was literally, even when my brother died, I checked for his pulse. He'd been dead in the bed for an hour before I'd actually been allowed into the room.
What had happened to him, if you don't mind me asking?
He died of meningococcal septicemia, you know?
Yeah,
So, yeah. So basically, I checked his pulse and everything like that. And obviously, all these things are what I'm having flashbacks about,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Then I went into care literally 3 months after my brother died. My mum put me in there. I might have become a little bit uncontrollable because I was dealing with a lot. That's a lot for someone so young to have to deal with. I think it'd be a lot for an adult to deal with, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, mate. I mean,
You know what
that
I
on
mean?
top of everything else that you've been telling me about,
Mm,
that's more than anyone can shoulder.
mm, yeah. It's like life went on. I come out of care. Uh, I didn't really go to school. Uh, I was doing something up in Richmond upon Thames. I worked doing some boat building work up there, but that was basically my first ever job where I was earning some money, and I started being introduced to money then, which I
Mm.
liked because with money, because as far as I'm concerned, back then it was where happiness was found. When you had money, you could spend. It's a false happiness, but
Mhm.
it was covering up basically the bullshit that's been going on. You know what I mean? Not that
Mm.
it covered it up completely, but it was enough to take my mind off of it. So anyway, I started off like that. Then I went back to school at the age of 15, only 3 days a week. And when I'm going back for 3 days a week, it was only to just do some numeracy and literacy qualifications. So basically, when I got to 16, when I left, able to leave school, I could go on to college and whatever else if I really wanted to.
Mm.
But to be honest with you, my education really suffered back then. Uh, I'd done my qualifications, but I was then getting into slippery slope. Obviously, I've been introduced to money through work. Now I'm not getting no money. I'm. I remember like even going to my local college uh, as part of a course that I was doing, and I started pinching mountain bikes out of the bike sheds just so I had some money because I had no money. Basically,
Mm.
I couldn't ask my mum for money because it's the same old carry on. It's like I'll be going to college and I might need money for a lunch, but no, I wouldn't get money for a lunch. I, same as your trainers might have holes in them, you wouldn't get money for them. You'd be walking around them for 6 months before anyone would help you to get some. That's how it was. So when I gave up on my college course because the teacher turned around and said to me all them years ago, there's no guarantee you're going to get a job even with this qualification, right? And I was doing motor vehicle body repair. So that really discouraged me then for wanting to do that.
Funny
So then
that who would have think that would make you want to carry on with it? You know,
yeah, exactly. Who would want to carry on with that? You know what I
no.
mean? Right? So at the end of the day, you're thinking, oh, mate, I'm investing all this time. Yeah, I'm nicking people's mountain bikes to survive while I'm there, but nicking them out of the bike sheds on the lunchtime and riding home with it, dropping the bike off, selling that bike that night, and then I've got a bit of money in my pocket. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But I went from that to I took a job up where I worked for a company called 18 Lots and Son, which was a paving company that run out of Wallington in Surrey. And I went to work for them for a little while, and basically all we was doing for that company was block paving and all that. They was paying me £20 a day, right? And I was getting taxed on that. So it's literally I was walking away with £15 a day, walking away with blisters on my hands. And I was thinking to myself, after about 4 weeks of it, and I thought, you know what, this ain't really what I'm about. I don't want to do that. So I
Especially, I
fucked it.
suppose the thing is, Kieran, if you know that if I do X, Y, and Z, I can get more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what kind of happened. It's like I went to an area where I knew everyone was at stuff, and I told them, I said, I'm not working now. I need to make some money. And that's where it started. That's where my criminal life actually started, really properly.
Mm.
There was minor crimes, obviously, leading up to that, car stereos and people's power tools and stuff like that. And I'll always call that as a minor crime as such, because obviously it stepped right up to breaking into department stores like Marks and Spencers, Woolworths,
Mm.
Boots,
Yeah,
and it was always cash, which was the main target. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And obviously, I got on that slippery slope, and by the age of 18, I found myself being incarcerated into prison. You know what I mean?
For the
But
pursuit of
what?
money, which you said yourself was probably just trying to plug a gap, a hole in
Mm,
you that was there from that
well,
you didn't get
well, I
from
start, I
family.
start, I started using drugs and stuff like that to try and mask what was going on with my life as well. like I'd take ecstasy tablets, and I'd take not just one or two. I could take up to 20 in the night, sometimes 24 in the
Jesus
night.
Christ.
I'll be honest with you. I had friends always telling me back then, you got to be careful. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to give yourself a heart attack. I didn't care. I didn't care back then. You know what I mean? I do now. I don't touch
What does that
anything.
many E do to you, by the way?
To be honest with you, I wasn't in reality. I wasn't in reality. Jaws swinging everywhere. You know what I mean? It weren't in reality, mate. To be honest with you, I wouldn't dream of doing it now. The thought of doing something like that now makes me feel sick.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm surprised I'm still here. I think that may have had a big play on my mental health as well. It made me deteriorate because obviously the way I was, I'd go out raving on a Friday night and I'd go home on the Monday morning because I wouldn't want my mum or anyone in the house to see me in the state that I'd be in. You know what I mean?
I still remember that was around about the time when it was very much in the news. I think what was her name, Leah Betts or
Leah
somebody was
Betts,
in
yeah,
the
that was
yeah
1996. Leah
yeah.
Betts, yeah. I started taking pills in 1996.
Mm.
And I was out raving by 1999, and I remember 1999 I took 26 E's. Was the most I'd ever took in one night.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I got up. Well, I say got up. I didn't go to sleep. I got to I think it was about 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, around them times, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was already on 23 E's, and then I triple dropped. Uh,
Jesus. No.
but I'd been ringing someone through the night because I'm eat out my brain. I want to go on the mission. I said, you know what? I want to rob something. I want to go and get some money because I'm eat out my head. I'm thinking I need to go out and get some money. So that
Mm.
so the reality is that's why I won't ever take any because that's the way my brain goes. I want to go on mad missions. Most people get loved up in that. I think, what can I go and terrorize or what can I go and steal when I'm eat up? So I won't touch them. Even
Kieran, I
to this
mean,
day, I wouldn't touch
was
them.
there nobody who was saying to you, Kieran, mate, too many, you got to be
Yeah,
careful.
one friend that used to do the commercial burglaries with me, and he's how said to me, Key, you got to stop, mate. He he said, you're going to kill yourself. I was dealing with a lot of trauma through my teenage years. You know what I mean? I haven't addressed it while we're talking, because obviously I've only told you one little bit about my brother. There was other stuff as well. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I
Mhm.
I basically had to grow up at the age of 13.
Mm.
You know, I had to
So
grow
that,
up at the age of
yeah,
13, but obviously that led to me spending a lot of time in custody. The criminal lifestyle, basically led me into the point that I then ended up in 2008 being arrested with somebody and charged. Originally, I was charged with murder.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I ended up sat in my jail cell, and I remember I had a mobile phone because I couldn't speak on any of the phones in the prison. So I had a mobile phone, and there was many a times I cried into the pillar talking on the phone to my mum because I couldn't believe where I'd got myself to, how have I found myself in this position? You know, I was in the end convicted of joint enterprise and convicted of manslaughter, which is the lesser charge.
Mm.
In other words, I didn't go there with intention to harm or cause GBH. I went there to steal.
Mm.
I still hold my hands up. At the end of the day, if I wasn't there, I wasn't involved in that, that man would probably still be alive now. So I carry that. You
And
know what I mean?
what stretch were you given?
I was given 10 years.
And how did you feel when you was given that?
Uh, I was gutted because obviously what I'd found myself in, but I was also relieved as well because under the murder charge, I was looking
It'd
at
have been a lot
minimum.
more.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was looking at a minimum term of 30 years because it was
Mm.
a robbery motivated that resulted into a murder. You know, My co-defendant killed the guy straight after I robbed him. That I couldn't stop it. I'd turned, and as I've turned, I've got the bag on my shoulder, and as I've turned, looked over my shoulder to make sure he's not jumping on my back. My co-defendant come around the side of him, just stabbed him straight into his chest and killed him.
Jesus Christ!
Trust me.
That's mad.
It is very mad. You know, it's like if I could have foreseen that, I wouldn't have been there.
No,
But nobody can foresee something. You know, it's the first time I ever done something with my Cody. It was the first time we'd ever done any criminal activity. And I believe when he stabbed that guy, it was like he was trying to impress me, like, look at me, this is what I do. Do you know what I mean? That's how surreal he was. My Cody was locked up for a minimum term of 20 years for it. Like in the newspapers and all that, it come out exactly of what he said straight afterwards in front of the eyewitnesses. He said about the stabbing that he'd done was better than sex. And I was like, what the fuck?
Jesus.
What the fuck am I doing next to this cunt? You know what I mean? I'm being truthful, man. What the fuck? How did I get myself into a position that I've actually then got myself wrapped around someone like that? Yeah, I was living a mad life, but how all of a sudden is this guy around me, first time he's ever done anything with me, and he goes and kills somebody? You know?
The thing
Don't get
is,
me
right,
wrong.
is that,
Don't get me wrong. I hold my hands up. If I wasn't there and I didn't get
Yeah.
involved with it, then that young man may still be alive now.
The thing is, you said to me that you was
Go
on
on.
the phone speaking to your mum, upset
Yeah.
about what the fucking hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And yet you were probably therefore speaking to one of the people
Yeah.
who probably put you there
Yeah.
because of their actions and the
Yeah.
way that
The
they raised or
encouragement to
did
live
raise
that
you.
life. The
Yeah.
encouragement to live that life, you know?
Mm.
But I remember crying, thinking my mum's going to die while I'm in prison. I'm going to lose all my family while I'm in prison. I'm going to come out if I do get out, or I'm going to die in prison. That's where I was at. I was 28 years of age, and I felt like I was going to die in prison. You
How
know?
long did you end up doing?
I got a 10-year sentence. I served 5 years. I was released from custody. When I was in my DCAT, I was seeing a girl. When I say seeing a girl, I was with this some female, and she fell pregnant when I come out of prison. She fell pregnant with a set of twins, and she lost both of them. She lost both of them. She lost one on the Wednesday and then one on the Friday. You work that one out. How does that work? I had her nan calling me, telling me that she was losing the last one. And then I was beating myself up. I was saying, you know what, I deserve that to happen to me because what I've been involved with. I said it's karma. It really started to eat away at me. I ended up going back into prison. I went back into prison for 22 months. Got license recalled. Probation at the time was trying to say if I was made homeless. But if you're made homeless, your mum makes you homeless, because my mum never wanted me there in the first place. She told probation that, and they still released me to there. And
Which
my
is
mum
mad
said,
in itself, isn't it,
yeah,
that they would do that?
set me up to fail, basically.
Yeah.
And turned around and said to me, if my mum makes me homeless, we're recalling you to custody. I've just done 5 years for something I haven't done, that I had no control over. I couldn't stop it from happening. I couldn't do anything after the fact because it's done. Then I'm
Also, not being
fearful.
funny, but being homeless is not a crime.
No,
So
not. But they wanted to recall me to custody, right? If I'm made homeless, they said, "So your mum better not make you homeless." They wasn't helping me find a flat, so that pushed me back into the old circles of people as such. And them old circles of people, I end up going out and doing something with them. And I cut my hand doing a commercial burglary, and I left blood inside a perfume cabinet. You know, it sprayed up all the inside side of the perfume cabinet. My blood was everywhere. I couldn't get out of it. 2 weeks later, they come to arrest me. I ended up on the run. 6 weeks later, they capture me. I end up in prison. I got 11 months for the commercial burglary, but I still at that point had 4 years and 8 months left of my license to go.
Jesus.
I end up serving 22. I end up serving 22 months. After them 22 months, I went on the parole board. There was quite a lot of stuff going on around them times. It's like I become a born again Christian while I was away on them 22 months. I was really struggling. It was eating away at me what had happened with the twins. You know what I mean? It was beating me up, and I was blaming myself all the time. Yeah, I beat myself up over it basically. And then I met some Christians one day in the church, and then I used to go down there and see them because my mate said to me, what's the worst going to happen? You're going to meet people that don't judge you for your past. And I think that's what I needed. Someone that wasn't judging me all the time for what I've been involved with, that was led me to where I was that day.
Did you
And I
find it
met
helped?
it did kind of help. And I think it was about 8 months after all that was going on, I went up on the parole board, and the parole board released me out into society. When they released me to society, I was released to a approved premises. And in the approved premises on the first day, the first person that spoke to me, that's a Mapper hostel. The first person that spoke to me was a black guy, a coloured guy. And he said, "What prison you just come out of?" I told him I come out of HMP Coldenley. I said, "What one did you just come out of?" And he said he come out of HMP Bure. HMP Bure is a place that houses sex offenders.
No, for God's sake.
Right? And I'm in the hallway, and I've got this monster there in front of me. I went, "You just come out of where?" He went, "HMP Bure." I said, "You know what? Don't talk to me." Because I
Yeah.
knew then what he was. Yeah. For me, all I wanted to do was smash his face in. As soon as you're telling me, I don't even know what he's done, but I know where he's just come from, and I know he's wrong. You know what
The
I
thing
mean?
is, Kieran, this is an interesting point, and this is just like to go to the side for 1 minute. I remember having a conversation with my ex-wife who couldn't get her head around this, and this was around the fact that there's an order, there's like a pecking order in prison
Yeah.
of like, if you are in there for certain things, you are the lowest of the low, you are
Yeah.
shit. Right?
Yeah.
But she couldn't get her head around it in the respect of, but they're all in prison. It's like, yeah, but there's different. For example, you know, if you've gone in there because you've had a fight with a bloke, you've had a fight with a bloke, right? It's man on man, okay?
Yeah.
But when you got like the rapes, the nonces, and so on like that,
They're the lowest of the
it's
low.
different, isn't it?
They're down there with the grasses, dirty grasses, you know. No, I know exactly where you're going at with that. It's like an armed robber in prison is treated like a celebrity. The commercial burglars that are making plenty of money, they're treated like celebrities in there because they're not doing crimes where there's a personal victim as such. They go after businesses and stuff like that. But then you get the dirty noncy cunts that are going after children. Then you get the rapists. Then you get the grasses. They get put all together. Them kind of people, you know. The ones on the wings, that the bad debtors, they end up down there as well. They tick tobacco off people left, right, and centre. You can't do that now. And if you can, it's costing you a couple £100 for a half ounce of tobacco. You know what I mean? That's how prison is now. But back when I was there was people that would get tobacco off somebody and say they're going to pay them on the canteen and then disappear before the canteen. They'd press their buzzers and say, "Listen, somebody's going to beat me up." They'd move them off the wing and put them down on the protected wing. You know what I mean? That happened quite a lot in prison.
And did you ever have anybody that you saw inside who you thought to yourself, what the hell are you doing in here? Like that there was no reason for them to be in prison.
I see on a few occasions people that you would never would have thought would have done anything. You know, I see a guy that used to be a solicitor. Yeah, he was in there for fraud, defrauding the tax man. Yeah, you see him. We used to call him the judge because he looked like a judge. You know what I mean? But you know what? His name was Nick, and he was a lovely little man. Right?
Mm.
He knew that we was little bastards or whatever you want to call us. We was criminals. We was outright criminals. So he knew that, But it was not. There was no problem with him. He Once he got captured, next thing he's sitting at the dinner table with us every day.
Mm.
And you would never have thought when you see this guy, because this guy was a skinny little guy, old man, and you would never have thought he would have ended up in the position that he was in. It would look too good to be true to see somebody like that on the wing.
Yeah, because I remember speaking to a former prison officer, and he said that where he was based, obviously you had all the wrong uns, you had the ones who are career criminals and so on.
Yeah.
He said, but then there was an elderly guy in there who had been done for something to do with tax or something
Okay.
like that, and they said he was so out of place there because
Mm.
he was like a friendly, normal person, and he
Yeah.
would be doing things, and the officer would have to say to him, "Don't do that," because
Mm.
because he just wasn't savvy of the
Yeah.
things that you do and don't do. And I just didn't know if you'd ever come across someone who was kind of, "What the hell are you doing in here?"
Well, there was quite a few people, I met along the way that you would never think they was in there. It's like I met an Indian man, nearly 50 years of age. He'd been brought to England for an arranged marriage at 16 years of age.
Mm.
He believed his wife was cheating on him. Uh, and if anyone knows anything about what they'd call honour killings,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, back in India, it was normal. If your wife cheated on you, she'd be killed. So
Mm-hmm.
he's killed his wife, 16 years of age. He's been brought to England to marry his wife. He was living with her family. Now she cheats on him and he kills her. Goes to prison. I see him. I think he'd done about 35 years in jail. He was
Wow.
16 years of age when he went in. And you know what? Never got nicked the whole time he was in custody. Never had no adjudications. Never went in the block. He got a tariff of something like 10 or 12 years, and he's done like 35 years when I met him,
Jesus.
you know. And the thing is, it really opened my eyes. I was thinking, all these men that are sitting in jail for all these years, some of them you wouldn't think, if you see them on the street, could be capable of the things that they're standing there
No.
for, you
Also,
know?
do you not think though, if you've been in prison for like, let's say 30 years, 35,
Yeah.
is there ever a really good way of releasing you? Because have you not become so institutionalized that you wouldn't even know how to be in the outside world?
Well, I can only go back to when I got my sentence of 10 years. Yeah. When I got that sentence of 10 years, I come out after 5 years. I went away. Camera phones had just come out.
Mm.
There was no interactive phones. You had the WAP. It used to be the WAPs
Yeah.
interactive on the
Yeah.
phone, but it was very difficult to use it as a thing. If you want to use a computer for a computer, you'd use a PC back then.
Hmm.
But obviously not like how it is today. So when I come out of custody and I done my first town visit and I went into Aylesbury town centre, and I walked around in the town centre. All of a sudden, I'm seeing these people on these like smartphones. Yeah, I've never seen a smartphone. Everyone's walking around, they're staring at the phones, doing stuff on their phones, not looking where they're walking. That was completely weird for me, and that's only after 5 years.
Mm.
So God only knows how it is for somebody when they went away. None of these phones existed. Even the old Nokia flip phone and all that, or the Nokia Flares or
Yeah.
Motorola Flares or whatever they were back in the day. Even them things didn't exist when this man that I'm talking about done 35 years. They didn't exist. So how do you resettle someone like that back into society when so much has changed? You
Yeah,
know,
because
the only
all
way
you
you
are
can
as a
do that
person,
is
you
you got to take them through the open prison establishments, and they've got
mm,
to go out to work for a couple of years. They've got to start. You know what I mean? It's not easy. I remember when I left jail after getting that 10-year sentence, I was throwing up. I
mm,
wouldn't mind. I've been going out for 18 months on town visits and home leaves. You know, every month going on home leave. But the day I walked out of the prison, because all of a sudden I've got my freedom, I'm bent over, throwing up, literally vomiting everywhere because the nerves are being released to the outside world. It's like
Mm.
it was a scary thing. I'm walking around, I don't even want to talk to people. I was too nervous to even open my mouth. And then somebody introduced me to Facebook, and that's when I started to get a bit of confidence again and start chatting to
Mm.
people. And it's weird how I only got my confidence back through speaking on Facebook in Messenger to people. I couldn't
Yeah, I
actually go
suppose
up to
that way
somebody and
then,
speak to
you
them. I was nervous as anything all the time.
you can do it at your own pace, then you can put whatever you want in there. And also,
Mm.
not only nervous, you've got your PTSD as well.
Yeah.
In
I
a
didn't even
new
know what.
environment,
Yeah, I didn't even know. I didn't even know what that was then.
But you've still got the
I
effects of
com-
it, even if you don't know what it's called.
yeah. The thing is, I was complaining all the time to my probation officers, saying, at this time I wasn't dreaming about my brother anymore. I was dreaming about violence, and when I say violence, people trying to shoot me, people trying to stab me.
Mm.
Like I've got a recurring dream that when I'm literally being chased in my dream, I flap my arms like a bird and I jump over houses. But when I'm
Mm.
doing that, I've got people trying to stab me. Like that's one of the dreams that I always seem to have. And then when I land on the other side of the house, they're all there waiting for me, trying to stab me. They're all going at me. So then I jump again and I'm doing that. Well, that's happening to me. Them kind of dreams really started to happen to me a hell of a lot when my cousin was murdered in 2015, just after I met my partner I'm still with today,
Mm.
Charlene. Uh, and she witnessed it that very night. My cousin was murdered at about 1:30 in the morning, and I was fishing somewhere completely different. I was out in Dorking fishing on the lake for the first time. I've been in custody for 5 years, not been fishing, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go fishing. And basically, while I was fishing, my cousin had been murdered over in the RE bar over in Ruislip, and that was where Shane O'Brien killed my cousin. And I, my phone fell into the water. I remember it well. But my friend that was with me, Dylan, he comes to me and he says, "Kira, I've got to tell you something, but I've been told not to tell you, but I've got to." He said, "I can't leave you today to go through today. So you enjoying yourself the way you are when I know something serious has happened in your family last night."
Yeah.
He turned around and said to me, he went, "Kid, he said, your Uncle Sean?" I went, "Yeah, his boy Josh, your cousin, was murdered last night." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" I packed up my fishing rods, slung them into the boot of his car. I said to him, "Right, he's only a new driver at this point. I've been driving since I was young, but I've never had a driving license." And I said to him, I said, "Do you know what? Because what's just happened?" I said, "Get in the passenger seat, mate." I said, "I've got to get home to my family." Because obviously,
Mm. What horrible
who knows
position
what
he must have been in,
who
though, to
knows
sort
what
of have to try and keep hold of that info and decide not to tell her. That must have been
Well,
hard for
well,
him as well.
my mum tried to tell him not to tell me, that she wanted to tell me when I got home, but he said he couldn't stand there next to
No,
me,
no.
knowing full well my cousin had been murdered in the night. Yeah, so that's like 2015. Uh, then that night I basically. So I've come home, that's Sunday afternoon, and I've gone into a pub with my partner after I've been with my mum, and I had to get away from them all because it was too much for my brain. I've gone to the pub, I've had a couple of pints, I'm crying my eyes out because my cousin's been murdered
Yeah.
and the way he's been murdered as well. And plus, what I've been away for, another family suffered the same way now my family was suffering. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I felt like a hypocrite grieving for my cousin. You know what I mean? It's literally, even at my cousin's funeral, I felt like I was a hypocrite. But that very night after my cousin was murdered, that was the first time that my missus had ever seen me going through it. And by
Yeah.
that, I'm talking about the dreams and stuff like that. The
Mm.
bed was soaking wet with sweat. Next day, I didn't go to work because obviously what had happened. I told them what's happened to my cousin. I explained it. They was fine. They said, "Come in tomorrow if you want to come in tomorrow. Come in the next day, no problem." Then the next night, the same happens again. Start having loads and loads of dreams. I'm talking 4 or 5 dreams in one night, and I'm dreaming the most violent stuff that you should be dreaming, and I couldn't explain it. So obviously, I went and told my probation officer. I had to talk out to people because obviously I remembered what happened to me as a child when my brother died, but I didn't really put 2 and 2 together till years later. You know, thinking it's very similar. But obviously, I'm having loads of dreams now, and they're traumatic, and I'm dreaming about being shot and stabbed all the time.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like the body's reflex to like a violent incident has then brought all
Yeah,
this back up and stirred up in your head again.
yeah. And basically, I went from having a good job scaffolding, and I'm talking it was good money. I had a nice little flat. My missus was coming around staying with me. She was trying her best because obviously I was proper going through it. But she'd only known me for about 5 or 6 weeks at that point,
Mm.
and she witnessed it, but she stood by me. You know, my mum. I try and tell my mum what was going on with me when obviously my missus one day caught me creeping out the house at 2 o'clock in the morning with a skipping rope, like what I said earlier on. You know what I mean? She caught me creeping out with the skipping rope.
Crazy.
And obviously, she couldn't understand what was going on in my head because I heard me unlocking the front door to creep out the house because I was having them dreams all the time. I'd lost my flat. I'd lost everything. By
Mm.
this point, literally 3 months later, I'd lost everything. I'd lost my job. I couldn't pay my bills. You know what I mean? I went from
Mm.
working 5 days a week to 4 days a week to 3 days a week. And then one day I went to sleep at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I didn't get up till 3 o'clock the next afternoon. And I went, hold on a minute, I was supposed to be at work at
Jesus.
6 this morning,
Mm.
and I didn't know. I woke up and then I just started crying because I thought, you know what, this has just got too much. I've
Yeah.
ended up moving in with my missus, who I'm still with today. And that's obviously where I went to leave her house one night at 2 o'clock in the morning with my skipping rope to go into the woods opposite the house. You know,
Jesus.
I went to my
But
mum. I said to her, I said, Mum, I said, listen, I need your help. I don't know what's going on with me. So I'm having a lot of bad dreams. I said, she's caught me this morning walking out the door with my skipping rope, so I couldn't take it no more. I said, I've lost my flat now. I've lost my job. I've lost everything. Everything. I've come from being in prison for what I was in prison for to coming out of prison, getting a job, getting a flat, moving on with my life, been positive thing, and then my cousin gets murdered, and then I fall apart mentally. And obviously, at that point there, I wanted to kill myself because I couldn't deal with
yeah,
what was going on in my head.
must have been
And
horrendous.
also, I was eating myself up because when I was at my cousin's funeral, I was like, I'm a hypocrite here. I'm crying for my cousin, but I'm partly responsible for somebody else losing their life. You know, so
Yeah, but at the same time, you also served your punishment for that as well.
regardless, there's still somebody lost their life.
Mm.
You know, we can
Yeah.
say, like my probation officer turned around and said to me, she went, when are you going to stop punishing yourself?
Mm.
You know, because obviously the guilt eats away at me all the time over. She said to me, when are you going to stop punishing yourself? You've served your sentence for that. You've served more than enough time for that. And I can't turn around and say that because that's not doing the victim's family any justice for me to turn around and say that. That's what a probation officer said. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But obviously it was eating away at me.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
But somewhere along the line, you've obviously got to a position where you now have this news that has come out that
Yeah.
your partner is pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I found out my partner was pregnant, and I was cycling along the promenade straight afterwards, down by the beachfront, on the seafront in Eastbourne. Some woman walks out in front of me with her small little child, not looking where she's going. Walks straight out into my direction. I've had to swerve to avoid her. I've gone across the white lines in the road, and I pulled my bike back, but my cousin, had to go around the inside of her because she's still oblivious to what has happened. But we've ended up colliding with each other at about 25 miles an hour, and I broke both my arms, ended up having seizures on the floor for about an hour and a half.
Jesus
This is
Christ.
5 minutes after finding out that I'm going to be a dad. When I ended up in hospital, I didn't know who my cousin was. I didn't know who anyone was. I you my own blood relative that I was actually staying with, I didn't even know. I didn't even recognize who he was. You know. And then when I actually realised, started to make heads to tail of it, I realised that I'd basically nearly left my child without a father.
Mm.
Uh, and it was quite surreal because I found out at the age of 20 that my dad, who I thought was my dad, isn't my dad. And my real dad had
Wow.
died before I was born. So there
Wow.
I am in 2019, two broken arms, a bleed on my brain. I've been having seizures for an hour and a half, and I just like crying uncontrollably because I thought, you know what? I've just nearly left my child without a father. You know,
How long
that's
did it take for your memories to come back?
it literally started to come back that evening.
Right.
That happened in the afternoon, and by that evening, I started to get all my memories back. Once the concussion started to wear off a little bit, I had a bleed on my brain. Uh, yeah, I got took into hospital, and I was beating myself up. I was saying I nearly left my child now without a dad, the same as me. You know what I mean? And I thought, you know what, this is now the time you really need to sort your head out and get your
Yeah.
arse in gear. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And basically, that happened. My partner come down to Eastbourne. She picked me up about a week later because I couldn't do nothing. My poor cousin and his missus was trying to help me, but somebody with two broken arms couldn't be really helped. You need somebody that can help them, you know?
Yeah.
And my cousin was only 20, 25, 26 years of age at that point, and he's trying to help me out. You know what I mean? I couldn't even do my flies up on my trousers, pull my
Mm.
trousers up and nothing because my arms were knackered. You know, I couldn't even wipe my bum. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't drink a drink. I needed round the clock care basically. My partner come and pick me up from down in Eastbourne, and she brought me back up to London. Uh, but a couple of weeks later, we received a letter to the door. The social services wanted us to come in for a chat.
So this came out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Literally, we got a letter because obviously after she'd been to a midwifery appointment, like in the hospital to go and get it confirmed, basically in the hospital that she was pregnant, they've got a thing where they contact multi-agency, just to basically see if there's anything, like if you've got any illnesses or anything like that that they need to know about. They go across the board. But obviously when it comes to me being checked by police, obviously because the way I'd lived my life, there's quite a lot of police involvement. You know, obviously I was away for what I was away for, manslaughter. So obviously they're going to come and ask questions because obviously I'm about to have a child.
Hmm.
My partner, 5 years before I met her, she had had a breakdown where she was sectioned temporarily. She was only sectioned for about 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and then they let her go. So she wasn't that bad as such, but obviously that was enough then for the multi-agency protection for social services to become involved. So we was invited for a chat. I'm going to name him if that's okay. His
Yeah.
name is Jeffrey Williams. Jeffrey Clifford Williams. He's an American guy. Uh, he invited us in for a chat. We met him and one of his colleagues up in Sutton local authority, which is the council and civic offices. We went in there for a chat.
What was
Uh,
in the letter? What was it they were basically saying?
basically,
Well,
they said we're aware you recently had a confirmed pregnancy. We would like to come in. We would like you to come in for a pre-arranged meeting. They gave us a date of when to come in and the time, and we thought, all right, we're going to go in and have a chat with him and see what's going on.
because
We've
that
gone
to
in.
me that sounds just a routine thing. It
Yeah,
didn't
well,
sound
to be honest
sinister or
with you,
anything.
I've never been I'd never been a parent before this point either. So I wouldn't know. You know, it's like the only time I come close is when Nicole had lost the twins. That's the only
Yeah.
time I got
Yeah.
close to being a dad. You know what I mean? And the rest of the time
Mm.
I've been in prison for years. You know. So anyway, Charlene found out she was pregnant. Social invited us in for a chat. Jeffrey Williams has got us in there, asked us loads of questions about the baby. When's your scans booked? When's this happening? When's that happening? But anytime we tried to talk about us, he was never interested in us. He said he was going away to do a report in relation to whether it needs to go to child protection measures and whatever else. And that's when he went away, started doing his investigation, getting probation reports, because obviously when we signed a bit of paperwork for them to basically, the waiver, they could get into everything like mental health, anything that they've got on you, they could go and get, you know. I've got, at that point there, I've got 10 previous suicide attempts leading up to it because of what was going on with the PTSD. Because obviously I couldn't deal with it. I kept trying to kill myself because obviously it was too much. But then my partner, when she fell pregnant, obviously my brain changed because obviously, like I just said to you, I nearly died like my dad died before my child was born. You know, it was like, so I really thought to myself, you know what, that's not going to be me. You know, I'm not going to do that.
It gives
to
you a
my
new
child.
perspective, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it gave me a
you're going to be
major,
a dad, you know, so
major perspective. Well, we thought nothing of it. The social worker had actually asked us in that meeting, do you drink? Do you drink alcohol and all that? I said, to be honest with you, I don't. I've got no interest in it. It's something I'd rather not, you know, because I don't like people that drink, the way they behave with it. But some people, they'll have a drink, they'll do a few lines of coke, next thing they're chatting your ears off, and you won't get a word in edgeways, and it's not a conversation, it's just people talking at you. I can't deal with that. That's too much for me, you know what I mean? I can't handle that. And yeah, basically, I started to think more about what I can do for my child and stuff like that. But this social worker, when we had the meeting with him, all they wanted to know was when the things were due, and he was going to go away and do his child protection meeting. Well, the day before the report's supposed to be served on us, he comes to us and he says, "I just got to let you know, I'm moving office. I'm being replaced." I was alarmed, you know. He kept saying, "How's Dad feel about becoming a dad? Have you got stuff for your child? Have you done this and all that?" I was proud, but I had tears in my eyes. Took him to my wardrobe, showed him the wardrobe. The wardrobe's full to the brim with two lots of the cameras, you know, the baby cameras, monitors and all that. I went and bought them, bottles, nappies, literally,
everything you need.
but everything we needed by the time my missus was 4 months pregnant. And I've just had 2 broken arms as well, and I've filled the whole wardrobe with everything, right? I showed him it. He never mentioned it. And he kept referring to me about dad this, dad that. And it's the first time in my life I've been called dad, and I've never really had a dad.
No.
You know? So to me, it was important to be the best dad I could for my child. You know what I mean? I've done everything I could to be the best dad. But the social worker, he said, "Oh, we're not interested in you. We're only interested in your child." And I thought, you know what? We ain't got nothing to worry about then. But obviously, what I didn't realise was when he asked me about do I drink, I actually turned around and said, "Yeah, I did have a drink the other day, right?" And the other day was the day my cousin's killer that I was speaking about earlier on was convicted.
So celebratory in a
That
way,
day
almost
there,
like
I see the CCTV of my cousin being cut from his ear down across his neck down to his chest. I actually seen that on the video, and that was on BBC News. I didn't go off to look for this video. I was sitting at home after being scaffolding all day. I've heard it on the radio at work, but then I'm sitting at home eating my dinner, and it's come up on the news. I thought, well, I'm going to watch it, see what this cunt's got. And then I'm eating my food like as you do. Next thing, it showed the graphic murder of my cousin. It showed the blood coming out of his neck, the whole lot. So obviously I was a bit distressed. I rang up my friend who I worked with. He was my boss. I told him what I'd just seen. He said, you need to come and meet me, mate. He said, come to the pub, we'll have a chat. And I had a couple of pints to try and take the edge off of what I'd just seen.
Yeah.
That social worker then wrote me up that I was alcohol dependent because I went and had a drink, yeah,
To try and cope with what you just
to
saw.
cope with what I've just seen. And that's
Yeah.
my relative being basically near enough decapitated where he's cut his throat, you know?
Jesus Christ.
Trust me, mate. It's like, so that's what they're using against, that's what they started to use against me, yeah? Oh, he's alcohol
Mm.
dependent. I'm like, oh, then what are you on about? I've already told you I don't drink. I went and had a couple of pints after witnessing that. They said because it was a traumatic incident and I chose to go and have a drink that I must be alcohol dependent.
Who wouldn't?
So who will you tell me who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I still got up the next morning, went to work.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I could have quite easily stayed. I'm not gone to work with what I've just seen. But I still got up
Mm-hmm.
the next day, went to work, I've got bills to pay. You know what I mean?
And
So
isn't it what they call mitigating circumstances anyway? I mean, at the end of the
well
day, if
you would
you're in
think
this
so,
kind of
wouldn't you?
position, yeah, yeah.
You would think so. So anyway, I read the report, I've seen that. I've seen he tried to say I was using crack cocaine. I wasn't. I wrote up loads of different stuff, and the thing is, I come from, like I've explained to all of you now, that I've come from some badness. I've been involved with some badness. You did not need to tell lies. You know, just stick to the truth. And the
Mm.
fact is, while the case was going on, like for my child, I noticed what they was doing. They told loads of lies about my partner. I've seen them bully my partner. You know, I witnessed a lot going on. Like this, one social worker turned around and said to my partner when she was 2 days before giving birth to my daughter, my her ankles are very swollen.
Mm.
She's about 5 or 6 miles away from where the centre is, where they wanted her to go to. And they turned around and said, she said that she can't get there. Her ankles are swollen. She's literally due any time
Yeah.
to go and give birth. The social worker from Finland turned around and says to her, if you don't go to that appointment, we're going to go straight for removal.
Oh, oh, oh.
Right? She
Right.
can't walk across the room.
They're not being funny. You've got a social
I've
worker from America, one from
luckily I
Finland.
had some money and I paid for her to get a cab there. She got to the meeting with her swollen ankles, and I always remember what they done to her like that. You know what I mean? So she'd gone to the meeting,
That's just
and
threats, then, isn't it?
yeah, basically that's what I noticed that they love to do. They love
Mm.
to have power over you, and once they've installed the fear in you, they'll do exactly what they want because you're trying to keep your child,
What was
but
the
they're trying
purpose
to
of this
take
meeting
her.
anyway?
What's that?
What was the purpose of this meeting that she had to go to anyway?
It was literally they wanted to be doing hair strand testing.
Right.
Hair strand testing, the same as myself. They wanted to do hair strand testing on me. Basically looking to see if we're taking any kind of narcotics because obviously what Jeffrey Williams had written, Jeffrey Clifford Williams had written about me being alcohol dependent, about me being a crackhead. So that's what he tried to come out with. Uh, and also her previous substance misuse from years before. However, she'd been into a rehab. She'd done a lot of work on herself. And but the thing is, these were things they were looking to use against her, even though they're positives that she's turned her life around and things like that. They're still trying to work out a way of twisting it. So she had to go to a thing called FDAC in Clapham Junction, and that's where she was. They were telling her she had to get to this meeting.
Yeah.
She wasn't even under a court order at this point, and until you're under a court order, you don't even have to agree to doing anything if you don't want to. But none of us do. None of us knew that. We was gullible to it of how much power they really had over us at that time.
Well, I suppose the thing is because who does actually know what you're allowed
Yeah.
to do and what you're not allowed to do? You get told you have to do this, where you're like, okay, well, we
Mm.
better do that then.
Yeah, exactly. All we're trying to do is trying to keep our child in our lives. And the whole time, obviously, my partner's pregnant. I'll be falling asleep every night holding her belly, but we couldn't enjoy the pregnancy.
Well,
You
I ain't
know,
being
it's like
funny thing,
we was
Kieran,
only
but
talking about it the last couple of days in relation to we couldn't
mm,
enjoy the pregnancy at all because we had them breathing down our necks. They was telling lies about us. They was twisting things. They was twisting truths, making them worse than what they really were. Then there was adding stuff into the mix as well, which was completely messing it right up. And like I always say, if you stuck to the truth and then you still removed, I could accept that. But the fact is, you told so many lies and twisted so many things into the point it's now a horror story and made it
mm,
sound a lot worse than it really was. And I've
mm,
already told you stuff that is real bad, right?
mm,
The stuff that I've told you is real bad that I've been involved with. But the fact is, they then got to twist it and to strengthen their case. I'm going to be straight with you. I never thought it was possible, right? I never thought corruption within social services was possible until I witnessed it. You know, it's like uh, I was tested 2 years after ever taking any cocaine. I could be honest. I've got nothing to lose. I've got nothing to hide. Two years later, I'm fighting for my little girl. All of a
mhm.
sudden, I'm producing positive hair strand tests. This is 2 years later,
Yeah, it doesn't stay in
right?
your system that long, mate.
That doesn't stay in your system that long, and I wasn't
Yeah,
doing it. So you imagine how distressed I was when they turn around and they say, "Well, you got a positive," and I'm like, "How have I got a positive when I'm not doing anything? How's that possible?"
that's
But
dirty.
yeah, it's proper dirty behaviour what they do, mate. It's like, but the fact is, I didn't believe that they could do it. They done it to my partner, and then they done it to me. And the thing is, I am clean. I don't go near anything. I can't ever talk for other people because I'm not other people, so I don't know what you
No,
do when you're on your own. But when it come to me, and I was like, hold on a minute, I haven't done nothing for over 2 years. You're not finding the cannabis that I was smoking in my hair, but you're finding cocaine.
mm,
And I'm thinking to myself, how is that fucking possible? That I was quite a heavy cannabis smoker, which I still do to this day because of my PTSD. There's something that
yeah,
helps me keep it at bay,
yeah.
you know?
But
But
also,
for the
not being
light
funny, Kieran, but
one,
all this time that you're going through this, and I'm thinking about your partner as well, going through
mm,
this worry of, well, are we keeping our child? Are we not? I'm
mm,
surprised she even went full term, to be honest, with the stress
two
of
two
everything.
weeks, she actually gave birth 2 weeks early.
Mm.
She
I'm not
gave birth
surprised.
2 weeks early. My baby was £8.10, and
Oh,
she was two
bloody
weeks
hell.
early. Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. I felt
Jesus.
sorry for her, mate. I felt real sorry for her.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. But, because stress can have a shitty old effect on the body, especially if you're pregnant
Mm,
as well.
yeah.
And I'm very surprised. I'm glad, obviously, but
Mm,
very surprised that something didn't come out of that, because if you're
yeah.
constantly worrying about,
Yeah.
well, are they going to be taken off me? Are we keeping it? Are we not? Am I
Mm,
supposed to be here? I'm supposed to be there.
exactly.
Very surprised.
Exactly. Like they terrorized the life out of her. She went up into a prison foster placement, and everyone remembers when the first COVID lockdown in the UK kicked in, right?
Hmm.
Everyone was terrified. They're walking around. Everyone's trying to keep their faces covered. They're going into the shops. They're trying to keep their 2 meters apart. They're
Yeah.
listening to everything Boris Johnson's been telling them, right? And he didn't know what he was telling half the
No,
people.
he
You,
didn't.
everyone that witnessed it, see him turning up, scruffy as anything, tied to the side, hair all everywhere. You know, that's how Boris Johnson was at the time. And I remember going to a shop with my partner. We got into a shop, and the shopkeeper said, "No, leave your wife at home when she's pregnant. You come to the shop, you buy the stuff. Yeah, don't be bringing your wife out." This is what
Mhm.
we had to live with, right? At the end of her pregnancy. So there was no enjoyment, even because of what social services was doing and what the COVID was doing. Well, my baby was born on the Saturday, and then on the Thursday evening, the lockdown kicked in. I think it was 7 o'clock in the evening. The lockdown kicked in.
Yeah, I
They was all
remember it.
doing.
Yeah.
They was all doing the clap as well at that point. It was the
Hmm.
first time they'd done the clap. Yeah. The
Yeah.
following morning, on the Friday morning, my daughter went into a foster placement with her mum as a living foster care. So basically, when they went into the living foster care placement, the rules of lockdown were being implemented. It was then being run like a foster prison. Obviously, Charlene wasn't allowed to leave the premises. Yeah, wasn't allowed
No.
to leave premises. My daughter
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to leave the premises. There was a lot going on. The woman was terrified of COVID outside the house, whether it existed, whether it doesn't. There's
That was
computer.
beside the point. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
besides the point, you know. It's like the fear that was in people, you know.
Mm.
So she was being kept there. They wanted to monitor all her phone calls with her family. Yeah, they was trying. She wasn't allowed to see her family. My daughter never see members of her family for 3 months.
Where were you at this point?
Where was I? I was away working.
Mm.
I was away working at that point. What a lot of it was going on. I had to step away from it for a little while because obviously with my record, what
Yeah.
they were trying to do, the lies they were saying about me, I didn't
Hmm.
think I was bringing any strength to the case. But the whole time I'm speaking to Charlene through WhatsApp, and I'm finding out bits and pieces along the way, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, why is this happening? Why is that happening? So I spoke to one of my friends who comes from Sutton, and they said to me, go on Facebook, start looking for groups in relation to people fighting against social services. And I thought to myself, I wonder what I'm going to find here. So I went and started looking. I started finding people like myself and my partner saying about what social workers are doing, telling lies. I had friends saying to me, there must be some truth in what they're saying, or there must be this and must that. I went, listen, if you stick to the truth, I'm happy. But you're not just sticking to the truth, you're adding bits and twisting the
Mm.
shit out of it. You know, it's bad enough as it was. It's already bad enough, you know what I mean?
And when you
So that
looked into
happened.
this and you was finding more information, after you found out what you found out, what is something that people don't realize then about social services?
Right. I didn't understand what it was about. I didn't know why they was doing what they was doing. But all I was seeing, there was loads of parents online all claiming that social workers have told lies in their cases and they manipulated evidence to remove their children from them. And I was like, wow, this is going on with me and Charlene. So obviously that was in October 2020. Uh, I put a comment on one group. The comment went absolutely viral because of what I'd put up. Can't even tell you what I put up, but I remember it went viral. And the group admin said, "No, we're removing you from the group," and they removed me. Well, a couple of days later, I started my own group, and that was Social Services Stop Stealing Our Children with Lies, because the amount of people that I could see were all saying that social workers were telling lies to steal their children. Uh, that then led me on to doing a thing called Storm London, which was mainly targeting social services. I developed my alias name of Billy O'Connor because at the time
Hmm.
I didn't want social workers knowing that I was out exposing them. Uh, I didn't want them to know anything. Obviously, I started looking into like the financial side of it, what they're gaining out of it, and I was shocked like about the interagency fees. And then I started seeing things about paid performance related bonuses. And paid performance related bonuses, if anyone really knows what a paid performance related bonus, that's like once you reach your quota of the amount of removal of children, or like the amount of bananas you sell, you once you reach your quota, then you're in profit. And then I've started finding out all that information online. So that then spurred me to go out on the street and speak about it. But obviously,
So
I
you
don't.
say you're telling me that social services, the agents themselves, they have a quota that they have to meet.
Yeah, I can send you the evidence afterwards if you want.
That's insane, dude. This isn't
Yeah,
This isn't a like supermarket where you have to make sure you sell so much or anything like
That's
that.
what
This is
I
your
always say
life.
to people. That's what I always say to people. You're not working for a supermarket. This is a social worker that's working with children that's supposed to be, no matter what, are supposed to be performing it the best that they can for safeguarding reasons for the children.
Wow.
But however, to remove so many children to get their pay performance related bonuses released in December, it's £3,500 tax free on top of their wages of 40,000 or whatever it is. That's an extra 3.5 grand at the end of the year at Christmas time once they reach their quota. And the thing is, it was to understand that it was money and it was cash driven. And then I'm starting looking into private adoption agencies and fostering agencies. Then I
And
stumbled.
what have you found there?
This is the quite major one, right? There's a company called Polaris Children's Services. Okay, that is run by 3 people. Yeah, Jonathan
Mhm.
David Clark, Joanna August, and somebody that calls himself. I'm just trying to something. Hold a minute. Trying to remember the actual person. Oh, right, hold a minute. Try to remember his Harrison Clark Secretarial is what his name is. Harrison
Right.
Clark turns out to be a solicitor's firm, big solicitor's firm, big
Right.
law firm. Right, we done our research into it and we found out he's a law firm. It's not his real name as Harrison Clark, but he's a silent partner. They run Polaris Children's Services together. Then you've got Jonathan David Clark, who runs 46 or 47 appointments of private foster care and adoption agencies. And then you've got Joanna August, that's got about 26, 27, who's a partner in the Polaris business. See where I'm going with this? It's like people
So we're
trying to
talking
say there's
about
no money in
millionaires
children.
here.
We're talking billionaires, these people are. But it's 3 people behind. I've worked it out about 50 private adoption agencies and fostering agencies. 3 people. There's one that's a silent partner. There's the solicitors firm. But why would their fingers be in the pies of that? It's like I've got this information, and what can I do with this information? It's like I found it. I found out there's obviously a lot of money to be made in the trading of children. There was people coming forward at the time. You've got someone called Jerry Hanna. I don't know if you ever come across that name.
No, I haven't. No.
Jerry Hanna is a advocate for children. He speaks on behalf of the child. He writes reports in behalf of the child, not the parents, behalf of the child. And himself and a lady called Jane Kelly had stumbled on something to do with a research medical laboratory in Qatar. It turns out they was taking children from the north of England, trafficking them, taking them to Qatar, and using the children as medical lab rats. Right?
My
This is all
God.
like at the start of it, and obviously I started to then find out about the adoption agencies and the fostering agencies, and it was just blowing me away. But the more I found out, the more it drove me to want to know more. I'm like a dog with a bone because I know there's something seriously wrong, especially witnessing what they've done to us. And I couldn't understand it until I see the financial side of it. It's like at the time, the interagency fee when my daughter was taken was £32,500. That is what they would get for placing your child for adoption. If that adoption broke down and that child comes back into fostering and then goes off to another adopter, then it was another £32,500. The amount of money that was generating, guess who's paying for it? The people that are paying their council tax. They're the
Yeah.
ones that are funding this trafficking industry and not knowing they're funding it. It's like I've got so much information even in the last 3-4 days.
Well, if we before
I
we
use
go
a go on,
into all that, I want to know more a bit about
go on.
obviously your child.
Yeah,
So she obviously
she's
mum
6
went with
now.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's 6 now. Mum went with her into a foster placement.
Hmm.
Mum was there for till my daughter was 11 months. Because of COVID, there was a bit of delay going to court. She got stitched right up in court. She lost my child. I then appealed and challenged them because obviously the whole time I'm studying them. I'm trying to, because I'm seeing at first that I'm bringing badness to the case. Then I'm seeing lies, seeing more lies, and then I see what they've done to her. So I studied them, and obviously I'm online studying, and I'm meeting people that have been studying them, trying to expose them, trying to find out why they're doing what they're doing. And obviously that's when I started looking into the finance side of it, because somebody said to me, follow the money trail. And I started seeing private adoption agencies on Company's House as such. Company's House, it's a very, very great tool because if you want and you get a social worker's name, like you're dealing with in the local authority, you could put their name in. 9 times out of 10, they've had a privatized company in relation to adoption and fostering. They've had their own companies. Some of them may be liquidated. Some of them may still be going. They was all start when what it was like. I found out in the last few days. Margaret Thatcher, right?
Hmm.
She's the one that started to allow the privatisation of adoption agencies. Okay, that
And
then
what would have
start.
been the reason for that?
What do you mean?
For the privatization of them. I mean, why make that
They
decision?
basically, it was selling off shares. It was to generate money. That's when the money started to boom into the adoption industry. Uh, it was basically like a dividend. Your child was then a dividend as well, because obviously with the birth certificate as well, there's a trade with your child as well. That's the only claim they've got to your child is the birth certificate.
Jesus Christ, man.
I'm telling you, it was like the more I found out, the more I couldn't understand it. It was like, but all I'm seeing is being driven by bonuses, people that are starting up their own adoption agencies. So it's profitable for them for an adoption to break down, because one adoption breakdowns at the time it was 32. It's now £38,500. It's gone up in 6 years. It's gone from 32 and a half to 38 and a half. So you imagine if that child is sold twice, three times the adoption could break down. There's no guarantee that the first time it's going to go. It's more favourable for him not to, because they're generating another pot of cash every time, and it's always being released from the government. The money's being released from the government, but it's the council tax that's funding it.
So it's almost like it's an incentive for them to place these children in places where they know too well it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's a massive incentive. It generates a lot of money. It's like, you've only got to look at some of the cases where they ignore the abuse,
Well,
right?
I'm being funny, Kieran, but look at the recent one that came out with the gay
Baby
couple. Yeah,
Preston.
yeah.
That's the second child that I know of in the last couple of years that's been killed by a gay couple. Uh, the other gay couple that I'm aware of, one of them, the social worker, was a mother to one of the gay couple, and she'd removed the child from the parent, and then that child had then been placed with her son, right? Her gay son. Her gay son killed gay son, or the gay son's partner had killed the child. This was down in Wales. Yeah. The mum was on one of the groups on Facebook at the time when it was going on. Yeah, it's just like, how does this happen? It's like,
Well,
how
one thing
can
that is coming out now, though, Kieran, is that I think more and more times do I ever see stories where it says social workers didn't spot anything. That seems to
Mm.
be the phrase
that
that seems to be
happens a
used
lot.
over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, which is quite strange, really. But these are cases of actual abuse, right? But when it comes to my daughter, they relied on a thing called future risk of emotional harm. Possible future. Look, listen to the words. Possible future risk of emotional harm. So that means because you may have had a breakdown, you may have been in trouble. no matter how well you're doing, there's always a chance that something can happen. You know,
Yeah.
there's always a chance. It's like me saying to you, don't cross the road, mate. You're going to break your ankle. There's a chance it can happen. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but suggestions enough to remove your child. Right. There's no abuse ever occurred, no past abuse. Yeah. There's suggestion that possibly the child may all face emotional harm. Emotional harm could be a number of things. If you've got learning difficulties, which I've noticed many a times, there's been parents with learning difficulties that have had their children taken from them, but they've only found out they had learning difficulties through having their assessments to keep their child. You know,
And also,
it's
not
like,
being funny, that it's the same as saying to you, we're going to pop you in prison in case you were to cause a crime in the future.
thank you very much. It's exactly
That'd be
the same as that.
that'd be what it'd be like.
It's what we call the crystal ball method.
Mm. Mm.
Prediction of the future, you know? And that's what they removed my child under. And they turned around and said, future risk of emotional harm. They turned around and said to me, when they moved her from me after me fighting for her in the court, they turned around and got an independent social worker to suggest it's going to take another 12 to 18 months of me of very good behaviour. I've been out of trouble even till now, 2017. Yeah. My daughter was two 2 years and 1 day when I lost her. So you bear in mind, I'd been out of trouble for a number of years by that point, about 5 or 6 years by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they turned around and suggested, oh, you need to be monitored for another 12 to 18 months, which unfortunately puts her out your timeline. So she has to go off for her forever loving family and she has to be adopted. Such a sad case, they said to me. Sad case, I was crying my eyes out.
Thanks. Yeah.
Because I'd done everything in my power to bring my little girl home, including studying them, jumping through hoops, beating them in court every single time I went to court, which they made me do DNA test to prove I was her father. There was loads of stuff, mate. You know what I mean? They proper took the fucking piss. You know, they knew I was her father, but they made me do a DNA test because what they wanted
That's a power
was,
trip, isn't it?
yeah, they wanted me not to come back as her father. That's what they wanted, because then they got away with the adoption without being challenged. But I beat them in court that time. I beat them in court the next time. But the whole time we're asking for me to basically get to meet my child.
Do you know where she is?
Right this second, I don't. Hold on a minute. Don't know what happened there.
Mhm.
Hold on one second. I'm trying to come back to you.
That's right. I can hear you.
I'm back to you now. Back to you.
Yeah. I've lost you. Are you there, mate? Ah, hang on.
All right,
There we go.
yeah. No, what
There
it
we
is,
go.
I just hit the sign up for free at the top by mistake when I you know. Right.
That's all right.
So
Don't worry about it.
what was I saying? My brain's gone
So I
blank.
said to you, do you know where she is at the moment? You said not at the
You've gone.
moment.
Your microphone's off.
It's not. It's not. I
Your
can see it.
microphone's off.
It's not.
Can't hear you.
Strange.
Hello.
Hello.
Microphone's gone, mate.
I don't know why.
Hold on.
Try.
Why is this doing this?
Don't know. Hello.
No, mic's off.
Can you not hear me?
Don't know what's going on.
Hello.
I don't know what's going on. Can't hear you.
Hello, mate. My microphone is working because my little colours are coming across to show that it's picking up my sound. So I don't know what it's doing.
Yeah, I'm not picking up nothing my end.
Strange. Don't know why.
I haven't got a clue why.
Do you want to try coming out of it and going in again?
Yeah, I'll try that.
All right. I'll speak to you soon.
All right.
There we go. What about now?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, I can hear you now.
Excellent. Okay. Right. So what we were saying was, and probably what I'd get you to do, Kieran, if that's all right, just turn your camera off because I think that's going to help the connection.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
There we go. So I asked you the question, do you know where your daughter is at the moment? And you said not at the moment, and then that's when
Not
it stopped.
at the moment.
So
So basically, when she went off to be adopted, I kind of located her from a photograph that they'd sent. But I can tell by the letters they write that they've moved. The letters that they write, there's mention about when they go to the beach all the time and all that. Like, I find it very weird. The area my partner gave birth in is the same area where the adopters came from. We're not from that area. My partner was placed there in temporary accommodation, and the day my daughter was born, she went into the intensive care unit, born with a little bit of fluid on the lungs. And at the time COVID was going on, so she'd gone into the intensive care unit. My partner was asleep after giving birth on her own because she wasn't able to have people in the hospital because of the rules at the time. Everyone was panicking, you know? That was another thing that people wasn't aware of, you know what I mean? It's like people were dying in hospital on their own, but people going in and give birth on their own, the whole lot, you know what I mean? It wasn't a nice time for anyone.
No, absolutely. It's carry on.
Yeah, so basically that happened, and yeah, it was basically my baby. She was in intensive care, and I haven't got no proof on it, but I actually believe the adopters met my child when she was in intensive care because we clicked what area my child had been taken to by a photograph of some buildings, and in the street you've got the old London street lamps. If you know anything about old London street lamps, they're not as popular as any of the other street lamps as such, and there's different types of them. Well, the area I'd worked it out to, my daughter was in Camberwell. She was born in King's College Hospital. King's College is basically on the borders of Southwark and Camberwell.
Yeah.
So, and I said to my partner on a couple of occasions, I said to her, do you reckon they've ever been in and seen her in the hospital? She said there was a chance, obviously, when she was taken into ITU. Yeah. And Charlene woke up crying because obviously, where's her baby gone? She's got a midwife standing outside the door the whole time she's in the room. She's like, where's my baby gone? You know? But that midwife got stood down after a couple of days of doing what she was doing because the social work couldn't believe that they were doing it in hospital. They was treating her like a prisoner. You know?
Disgusting.
Trust me, it's like there's so many things that I could tell you. You know what I mean? It's like the whole treatment, the way they treated us. But that I think that's what spurred me to become a children's campaigner. Obviously, witnessing what they'd done. You know, it's led me down all different avenues. First of all, I was involved with Storm London, where we only basically went out against social services, and that's where Billy O'Connor was created, because that's where the name Billy O'Connor come from. That's where I created that name. And Billy was my granddad, William Bradish. and he was one of the best men that I ever knew, and he died when I was 20 years of age. My nan's name was Philomena O'Connor, so I adopted her surname O'Connor. She was the only child, and I used my granddad's first name. I thought the best alias to use, something very personal, and I'm fighting for my child. And I felt like my granddad was with me fighting for my child, and many of my family found out that's what I was doing. I was using my granddad's name and my nan's maiden name. And many of them was happy that I was doing that because I couldn't use my own name because I was going into court every month for my child,
Mm.
you know?
With your advocacy that you've been doing, or your
Yeah,
campaigning and so on, that
yeah.
what's the well, two ways looking at it. What's been the sort of the response of the public and people like that, and also what has been the response of, let's say, the establishment?
Uh, I was involved with a team. We went into the Department of Education. We entered there peacefully to serve written notice. The first time I went there to serve a written notice, you've met you've met my friend Jeff, that we run
Hmm.
we he co-founders the Save Our Children Army with me. Uh, we went there in relation to sex education scandal that we was aware of, being basically children being groomed in school by some of the explicit lessons that they're being taught, like masturbation at young ages. And you've also got not just the masturbation at young ages, like even last September, I went to the Department of Education because I found out about strangulation during sex being taught to a 6-year-old.
Oh
You
my
know, this is
Christ!
what's being taught in your schools. It's like people can walk around with the blinkers on as much as you want, but you're not really realizing what's being taught in schools. Uh, so anyway, we went there on the first instance. 2 weeks later, after we'd served them written notice with evidence of the sexual explicit stuff that we was finding out about that was being taught in schools, Richie Sunak and Gillian Keegan, they brought in a ban to under nines. If you want to, you can jump on Google afterwards or one of them search engines like that and look into the ban on under nines uh, being taught any sexually explicit content. But myself and Jeff and a few others, we've been campaigning a bit more, and we went back there another year. I think it was about 18 months later, because obviously we found out in that summer, which was last summer, about a 6-year-old being taught strangulation during sex, safe strangulation during sex. What
What
kind
the
of fucking
hell is
people?
going on?
Listen, what kind of fucking people are they to want to do that? You know. So obviously we've gone in there because we knew there was a ban put in place, and we thought, you know what, that ban should be safeguarding kids under the age of 9. And then we're getting
Mhm.
evidence of that. So obviously I knew it was about time we went back to the Department of Education. Like, as far as we was concerned, we'd had a ban put in place with it was front page newspapers and everything. All the
Mm.
Sun newspapers, every Daily Mail, the whole lot is front page. Richie Sunak said he was bringing in a bill through Parliament. Well,
Mm.
Richie Sunak was literally in power for probably another 6 weeks, and then the Labour government stepped in. When the Labour government stepped in, they chosen to ignore the ban,
There's a shock.
and they're encouraging the schools to teach about strangulation, safe strangulation during sex. This is what the Labour government was pushing, and I was like, "What the actual fuck? You're ignoring it." So we went to the Department of Education. We served him in relation to the sex education, what was going on in the schools. At the same time, we served the children's education minister. We served her, and also, I don't know if you're aware, there was an alleged terrorist threat to children in schools about beheading in schools. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
that
was one.
rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, we had gone away, done our investigation. We looked into teachers' unions. We was trying to look at why they're doing lockdowns in schools, trying to get an understanding of that. And we found out there was a current ISIS threat in the schools of beheading children. And we thought, hold on a minute, why are you not telling the members of the public about this threat. We found this information online through accessing a union that a friend of mine was also part of that union. So he's accessed the information for us. So we've gone then and served at the time, it's the same education minister we've got now. My mind's blank at the moment. And then you've got the children's services minister thing. We served both of them documents in relation to the terrorism threat. We had 100,000 views on one video on TikTok in relation to it, where it absolutely went viral because obviously what we had found out, and we basically went there with the evidence of over 18 months because I was working behind the scenes with Jeff and a few others, trying to collate as much information as we can to go and serve on them. And we was working
It says
on.
at the moment, the UK Secretary of State for Education is the Right Honourable Bridget Phillipson.
Yeah, Bridget Phillipson. We served her, and we served a Janet Davey. Janet Davey was the Children's Services Minister at the time. She basically she handed in her resignation Janet Davey handed in her resignation 6 days after we made entry to the Department of Education, served the evidence in relation to body camera for social workers, because we looked into the side more for the social worker, the positives for the social worker to wear it, because the amount of social workers that are being stabbed, being harmed when they're coming around to people's houses. And I can understand somebody at home, somebody's coming into their life telling lies, trying to steal their child. I can understand things are going to happen, but I thought, you know what, shall we use that to our advantage and start pushing for body cameras for their safety? Yeah, so everything's safeguarded. But also then it works in the parents' favours, it works in the children's favours, because then everything's recorded and basically
Well, it's the same as
rebel.
body cams for the police, isn't it? You know, it works
Yeah,
both
look,
ways.
it works both ways. Sainsbury's, ticket inspectors, everywhere you go, someone's got a body camera. Even in the shop now, behind the counter of Co-op, you may have someone wearing a body camera, right? Because the world's gone crazy with body cameras, but children's services workers do not wear body cameras. They're getting attacked left, right, and centre. I wrote to Social Work England. There's one in Wales, another social work place. There's one in Scotland, and there's one in Northern Ireland. I wrote to all four governing bodies for children's services and social workers to find out the statistics of social workers that are being attacked in the workplace, that felt fearful in the workplace, reporting of assaults in the workplace, all sorts of stuff. I'd asked a multitude of questions, got all the questions back. Then we put the case together with all the evidence of the other stuff that we're finding online, newspaper articles, everything like that. And we went and served it. Well, Janet Davey left her office 6 days later. She resigned. He had it on a Sunday afternoon. She resigned. We went there on the Monday morning. She was resigned by the Sunday afternoon. She didn't even stay in there 7 days afterwards. Right at the time, then she got replaced by a guy called Joshua McAllister. He's now the current guy for Children's Services. He's based in the Department for Education. Nobody didn't at this point here, nobody didn't realise that the Department for Education is the ones that are actually funding children's services. That's who funds children's services, Department for Education. That's where the money comes from for adoptions and the court cases and everything like that. Yeah, it's like it's amazing. Like now I've started using AI to find stuff, and I write in summaries of stuff. And when I write in a summary and then it looks it up online and it finds all the evidence for me, it's just like, hold on a minute. There's so many missing bits over the years before I started using AI, and now everything's just being given to me, and I can prove they're corrupt as fuck. You know,
Well,
it's
it's
like,
almost like spider web, isn't it? Everything's
yeah,
connected.
everything's connected. It goes all the way back to Margaret Thatcher when she was to start doing the the privatisation of adoption agencies and selling the shares and stuff like that. That's how it all first started. And then you got Tony Blair come into place. He legalised same-sex couples, to
Mm.
adopt children, it went from 5,000 children that year to 10,500 the following year, right? And that was the same year when future risk of emotional harm was being pushed. And he was also setting targets for certain amount of children to be removed in each area. He wanted more children to be removed because it was generating money. Nobody understands that. There's so much money in children, you know.
They're a commodity now. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, they're a dividend.
Mm.
They are a commodity. That, how many times can they trade one child? You know what I mean?
And then and this is ruining children's lives as well, for
It
them into
is.
adulthood.
Well, the thing is, I grew up not knowing who my real father was, right? I found out at the age of 20 years of age, my real dad is not my dad. Yeah, I found out my real dad died before I was born, right? The man that I've always thought was my real dad, he's not my dad. Then I
Mhm.
find out at 20 years of age that he's not my dad. I had another father who died before I was born. I touched on this earlier because obviously
Yeah.
how distressed I was when I found out I was going to be a dad, and then I had the big accident, and I thought I was going to nearly die and all that sort of stuff. I nearly killed myself. So with that in mind, mate, it's just fucking hell, man.
It is. And I want to talk a bit about what you're
Well,
doing now in terms of your fighting for things, your
mm,
campaigning, because obviously, like you said, there's going to be others who are in a similar situation.
yeah.
What
Uh,
what
I
what can they go to? What help is there for them? What are you doing that they can go to?
right. I'm the current founder of the Save Our Children Army. We are on Facebook. We have a group on Facebook, which is like a support group where people can go. They can ask questions on the group on an open forum, chat to other people that are also going through the same sort of stuff. But with the Save Our Children Army, it's not just about children's services, even though children's services are spoken about that. It's about child abuse, it's about sexual abuse on kids, it's about predators, it's basically anything that can affect children, the education system, the whole lot. We cover a whole variety of things under the Save Our Children Army. But then I had the social services stop seeing our children. As I say, I've still got it. Uh, but that's a privatised group where people that are going through the stuff that I was going through with social services have got a safe place to come and speak. There's plenty of people on them groups uh, that are in the same boat as yourselves, and obviously that's basically where people can go to. However, every month, the Save Our Children Army go out into the street. We go to various towns around the capital, around the south of the country. We travel around everywhere, and we go out to aim to basically raise awareness around adoption, child abuse, satanic ritual abuse, so many different subjects that we bring to the table that we go out and speak about. I often go out and I tell my story out on the street of what happened to my family, what's happened with my little girl. And I often go out and I tell the public that. And so many times we get members of the public coming to us and saying, "Do you know what, that's happened to me, or that's happened to my friend,"
Wow.
you know? And I've been there before speaking on the microphone. And there's a man there reading the banners in front of me while I'm speaking on the microphone. As soon as I start talking about adoption, he starts crying his eyes out in front of me. I went, "It's happened to you, hasn't it?" I started crying too.
Jeez. Do you
I
ever
was like,
get any sort of negative sort of reaction when you're going out to do these things?
"Yeah, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We always get negative reaction. You'll always get uh, either a social worker walking along in the street. You might get a foster carer walking along in the street, and they might come over and try and challenge you. That's up to them. They're allowed to come and do that, to come and challenge you. But some can be blatantly rude. Some, like I was holding a banner up above my head in Wimbledon recently. I know you see my speech in Wimbledon, but
Mhm.
when I was in the street, I'm holding the banner above my head. This skinny little feeble man comes over. He went, because I've got a sign saying social workers remove children for profit facts, right? I can prove
Mhm.
about the profit. I'm holding the banner up above my head, and it's like a placard thing. I'm holding it above my head. I'm not saying nothing to no one. This guy said, "Well, show me the facts." I went, "Stop there, then, mate. I'll show you."
Mm-hmm.
He's gone, "No, I ain't got time." Being rude, right?
Right. Okay.
So I reacted, and I said, "You know what, mate? I'm going to smash your face and come here," because I could not believe how rude he was being. And I'm holding this banner up above my head. And the thing is,
Mm.
I'm not holding up a banner like that because I enjoy doing it.
No.
Yeah, I'm doing it because of what they've done to my family. And then for someone to do that, he's run away. A couple of my team members have gone after him, and they've gone and spoke to him because they couldn't believe how I reacted, and they wanted to know what had gone on. So they've gone
Yeah.
over and spoke to him, and then they come and spoke to me. Then the guy come over and spoke to me. He apologized to me. Then I showed him,
Wow.
and you could see in his face he was so gutted that he'd said what he said to me. And I
Mm.
said, "The thing is, mate," I said, "you really need to think." I said, "If you see somebody holding a banner above their head like that, they're not doing it because they enjoy doing it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You're not doing it because you enjoy doing it." I said, "So really think outside the box before you come over and say something, 'cause you never know how somebody's going to react towards you." So that was in
Mm.
Wimbledon, but that was like negative. That was a bit of negativity. And literally, he didn't hang around to hear my speech. But when I gave my speech in Wimbledon, all of a sudden, the whole of the front of the Wimbledon train station decided to fill up with loads and loads of people. Because
Mm.
obviously, like I've told you, I told them the badness, you know. I told them that I've been involved in a negative life, and I also told them what had happened to my child. But the
Yeah.
thing is, you know, I went out there and told the truth. And at the end of the day, I tell a truth that's uncomfortable truth for many people. But at the end of the day, it's the truth. And the fact is, I will tell the truth to expose these lot for what they are. Because although I have got a past, yeah, I'll go out and tell the truth. But the social workers doing the same. They're not.
Mm.
They're not
No.
doing the same. They're not protecting children. You've only got to look at baby Preston. Then you've got to look at the current child at the moment. They've been shown evidence of being abused. This child's name of Avaya.
Mm.
I she's got for Avaya. There's a, a music track that's been released in relation to this child, and I walked into a boxing fight only on the 13th of March with that tune playing in a big
Wow.
arena to give the child the awareness, give the crowd the awareness of what's going on with that child. So I've done that on that level and got the Save Our Children Army banner out on the stage there, basically trying to give her a voice. This child, I'm aware there's been nurses that are aware of bruising to this child in the groin area. Okay, it's unexplained. The police don't want to investigate it. There's been a police officer that has spoken out about this child being dragged through Milton Keynes shopping centre. The child has got black eye, being dragged through it. A police officer has witnessed his child being dragged through the thing, contacted the grandmother. The grandmother's been fighting for the child.
Mm.
I've been supporting the grandmother, obviously, and the police officer is willing to go on record. However, we went to Charing Cross Police Station a couple of weeks ago. I went there to support the mother. I filmed it. And what happens? They're not interested in it. Social work keep covering it up. There's a child there being abused. We know the child is being abused just by the evidence that has already been seen, but everyone's choosing to ignore it.
That's disgusting. And it's
You
horrible
know
to
what I
think that this
mean?
is
And
allowed to
then
happen.
you got another baby. You got baby Preston, another
Mm.
child. They're going to ignore. You know, baby Peter Connolly. They ignored Victoria Colombier. They ignored. How many more children are they going to ignore?
And I guess the one of the questions I want to finish with today, which is also, I mean, you talked about how all of this is uncomfortable. This is also an uncomfortable question to ask. Um, obviously when you're talking about what's been going on, there's a lot of money exchanging between things, and people like to protect that. So I do ever wonder, with all this, where you're trying to highlight things that are going on and outing institutions and all that, do you ever wonder or worry whether eventually you're going to have a target on your back?
I've already really been aware in the past. MI5 snatched somebody from their house, asked them to be agent provocateur, basically a paid informant to try and work alongside me, because obviously what I've been exposing, and they wanted to know the inside of it, and they was trying to get someone on the inside. I've seen the video evidence of the police taking him from his house. And there's also a video been done by my friend over in America called Ven Miller, who done a documentary on it, which basically he contacted me one day. He says to me, Kieran, he said, are you aware MI5 have got you on their watch list? And I went, what do you mean? He said, they're obviously very uncomfortable with what you're exposing.
Jesus Christ, it's as deep as
Yeah,
that.
proper deep, yeah. My friend told me every time you go in your house, make sure you're checking all the cars outside, see if there's anyone watching you and all that. I don't, because I don't care.
No,
I don't care.
no.
There's nothing they can do to me. They've already took my child, and I will expose the shit out of them to the day I die. There's nothing that's going to stop me from doing it.
Well, Kieran, I just want to thank you so much for coming on this and sharing your story. And I know there would have been an awful lot that we wouldn't have even been able to touch upon, but
There's
like
so
to
much
think
that I haven't managed to touch.
that's fine. I am more than happy to have you come on again to go into more detail. But I want to thank you for all the information you've shared, and hopefully, if there are people who are finding themselves in a similar situation regarding their own children, that they now know where they can go to reach out to you. And I want to say thank you for your bravery for talking about what you've spoken about as well.
Thank you.
And obviously, I keep in touch with you anyway, so I'm going to sort of keep an eye on with you and obviously your progress with everything. And if you are watching this and you also want to come on and share your story, you can do what like Kieran has done and request to come on. So I have got an email address in my channel description. Please get in touch. And again, thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you.